I got another question here in the comments on YouTube. And there's two questions, but I'll split it into two different videos again. The one I'll start with is, what accommodations do I think would have been helpful when I was growing up if they had been offered? This one is kind of an interesting one to think about. I hadn't really thought about it. But I guess I should explain what kind of accommodations I would need. A lot of people with autism, they have a lot of different sensory issues regarding smell or lighting and sounds. One of the things that I have trouble with is multiple conversations happening at one time. That isn't necessarily an issue in school because everybody's supposed to be being quiet, and learning, and it's like the teacher's talking. People may notice in social situations, after a certain number of people, I kind of start to take over the room, and that might seem like I'm trying to be the center of attention, but really what's happening is I'm trying to stop other people from talking. And I didn't know this when I was growing up, but that's just naturally what I would do. Because if everybody's listening to me, then they're not having little side conversations. I do have some sensory issues regarding clothes, and I would always try to wear really tight undergarments and stuff like that. And that's just something I was able to do on my own. I would usually have like baggy outer stuff, but I'd have really tight things underneath. A few years ago, a friend of mine, he introduced me to compression clothes. I didn't know anything about that. And so now I just wear compression clothes underneath my clothes. I always had a very layered look, but I never liked the way I looked in really tight clothes, so everything was really layered, and I'd usually have really tight things underneath. I didn't really know why, I just knew it was better. I don't like the feeling of clothes moving on my body. So with those sorts of things, there really wasn't anything that I could have asked for in school or that I needed to. But what would have been helpful, like in my case, just people understanding that I wasn't going to act and react the way other people were going to do. I wasn't always going to say things in the way they would expect, because I did get in trouble for different things like that. In school, they mostly focused on the fact that I would never do my homework. That was something I decided in second grade didn't make sense, and I never did it after that. So it was always a big fight. Maybe there could have been some sort of accommodation with that, but I don't know exactly what would be asked for. I do remember having a couple breakdowns at school. Didn't know what to call them, I remember describing things to a friend of mine once, where if you know anything about like computers, what people would call the blue screen of death, it'd be like so many things pop up that I just lock up. That's happened a couple times. Now I know it's basically from having too much social interaction. So now, whenever I know I have something where I have to be really social, I usually take the next day off, basically. I do enjoy other people. It's very draining. Even the people I really like, it's very draining. So another thing that would have been helpful would have been having very direct communication and having things explained more to me. It's basically, I would do things and I'd get in trouble, and then I wouldn't do them. And even if I needed to do them, if someone didn't tell me I could do it, I just wouldn't do it. Like I remember in kindergarten, I got in trouble for getting up and going to the bathroom. It's like you have to raise your hand. And then later on, like 3rd or 4th grade, I had to go to the bathroom real bad and raise my hand, but the teacher wouldn't call on me, so I just peed my pants. And then they were like, well, why didn't you just go to the bathroom? I was like, I'm not supposed to. It's the rule, you have to raise your hand and they have to let you go to the bathroom. They're like, but if it's an emergency, you just gotta go. I was like, no. So I don't know. Things like that will happen in my life. So I guess those are a few things that would have been nice accommodations when I was growing up.